today's economic climate, it's not surprising that every online company is clambering to gain and retain customers, and many look to technology to help them with their challenges. In a slight departure from our normal discussions, I look towards a technology that sits between your analytics and testing platforms that helps you recognise what you should be testing. I'm in discussion with James Fearne, Lead Customer Success Manager at Contentsquare, to understand if adding their technology provides a level of insight to make a real difference to building the right experiments. James, you've been in the optimisation space for nearly 7 years. What is it about this kind of area that fascinates you?
Good question, John. So yeah, I just mentioned 7 or so years now. I kind of fell into it back then, and I had an immediate love for using data, looking at data to come up with ideas and hypotheses of how to improve website experience, running a test, making a change to a site, and then seeing the difference in not only the data, but in the behavior that humans were exhibiting on websites. I just found it fascinating and really actually quite rewarding as well. So yeah, I have never looked back since, really.
It's quite different to your kind of degree, which was in sports and fitness. Seems at odds with that. It's like kind of chalk and cheese, left brain versus right brain.
Yeah, kind of. So my degree was in sport management. So it was kind of business related, but in the sports world. But yeah, very, very worlds apart from the whole world of behavioural and UX analytics. So yeah, very different. As I mentioned, I kind of fell into it post degree, and very lucky that I found a career path back then that I knew I was immediately suited to and really would play to my strengths. So yeah, very lucky, and as I said, never looked back since.
It seems strange. I mean, I've got kids. One that's just left university, one that's just doing his masters. But to go out of something such an exciting thing as sports management, and then going into what could be described as an old person's website in Saga, must have been quite a different view.
It was exactly that. The fast-paced, dynamic world of sports event. I think the last thing I did at uni was arranging a really big sports event, which was great fun. To then go to optimizing the insurance journey for the over 50s was quite an adrenaline dump. But you know what? Working at Saga was super interesting because of the demographic. I never looked at making a website optimized and accessible for that kind of demographic. So having to put on that different lens and use different data points and a different way of thinking was actually really, really interesting, and made me think about websites and the intended user and what they're experiencing in a very different way.
I think it was a great education because obviously people consume websites in different ways, and the perspective of looking at it from somebody who's in their latter years rather than a teenager or a young 20-something when you started with Saga must have been quite challenging. And I think that's a great asset to have as you go through your career in digital, to be able to see actually it's all about the customer, it's not about the company, and trying to be able to make sure that individual is reading what you want to read in the way you want it to be read.
Absolutely. And so absolutely at Saga, lots of experience of that in terms of a very different demographic. And now at Contentsquare now, working with lots and lots of customers, and seeing how different organizations, some of which are more customer centric than others, and the difference in their digital offering when you are truly looking after the customer, it makes such a big difference.
So Contentsquare it's a very successful company. It was founded, about 10 years ago? Lots of people will have heard the name, but what exactly does Contentsquare offer the digital marketer?
Yeah, so we've just, I think, celebrated our 12-year anniversary, actually. And we had a bit of a celebration for that, which is really good. But we describe ourselves as a UX or a user analytics platform. So we are here to provide anybody within the digital space with easy to digest, actionable data to make sure they're using data behind their decisions and making their websites and apps as optimized as possible for their customers. So for years and years and years gone by, data has often been held by the analysts within a company and a BI team and the very, very data heavy people. We believe in democratizing that and having people from marketing to UX to trade and everything in between being able to use data behind their decisions. So very much here to empower digital teams all over the country, all over the world to make their experiences as optimized as possible through the use of our data.
But surely, there is a wash of analytics companies out there that do data analytics for websites and things like that. And in particular, Google Analytics and its free version is used by the vast majority of companies. I won't say that all of the companies, but a big majority. Does it not do the same thing as GA?
Common misconception, but absolutely not no. So GA is fundamental for all digital marketing companies, or all companies in general, digital marketing departments. GA will tell you how people got to the website, where they went, where they left, and some different attribution in between. What Contentsquare does is help to explain the how and the why they are acting the way that they are. So we have some unique user experience metrics all around UX and behavior analytics that no other company has to help explain why customers are behaving a certain way on a website. So the perfect analogy would be GA will give you a really nice drop-off report as to why people are dropping off throughout a checkout funnel. GA would identify that the billing or the payment page is the key offender in drop-off. What Contentsquare will show you in a really visual and aggregated way is what people are actually doing on that page, where they're scrolling, what they're clicking on, what they're actually exposed to, what are the elements that are causing frustration, what are the elements that are causing conversions, and giving people the data behind that. So our tag captures every single interaction that a customer makes on the site. Every scroll, every tap, every hover, every click, every page view is captured automatically without the need of any sort of tagging plan. So it's the level of data, the granularity that really sets us apart from other companies in this space.
Is that like doing, say, Hotjar's page recording?
Yeah, so a lot of other companies do what's commonly known as heat mapping, which will give you a guide as to the hot spots on a page and where people are going with their mouse. But what Contentsquare does is looks at every single element on the page, whether it's a link, an image, a drop down, a carousel, a call to action, and give you the exact metrics for that specific thing. So it's far, far, far more focused and detailed, and the plethora of metrics that we've got is far greater than just where people are clicking. What people are clicking on is obviously an important factor, but what does that click mean? How many people are actually exposed to it versus those who click on it? What does that mean in terms of conversion rates? Is it causing negative behavior? So the level of detail that we can go to in the in-page behavioral stuff that we've got really sets us apart.
So how does that turn into actionable intelligence?
So what this does is we also have a part of our tool that's called impact quantification. So it's great having these insights. You can see that 50% of people are clicking on a call to action and then leaving the site. That's great, but what does it mean? What does it mean in terms of prioritizing it to then make a change, run a test, run an experiment? So we now have the ability to constantly be comparing good and bad behavior, good and bad segments, and see the impact that's having on bottom line conversion rates. So the whole point of this is to provide people with the most actionable insights, so they're making changes. They're making the tests and the changes that can have the biggest impact first. So one of the older mindsets in this space was people love to watch session replays, session recordings. They love to see real customers on their sites, and completely agree, it's fascinating. But what you can end up doing is making a decision, a change, or giving resource to something that only one or two users is experiencing, and it could not be a problem for many customers. We really try and flip that methodology and look at aggregated data. What are the biggest cohort of customers seeing or doing on the site, and fixing those problems or going down those opportunities, and then validating the hypotheses with session replay. So it's a kind of a change in the mindset. We're trying to make sure that we're actioning the biggest low-hanging fruit and fixing the biggest problems first.
You mentioned a little earlier you wanted to democratize data, but surely aren't you creating more data points along the way? Because you're listening to the shortened version of this podcast. To listen to the full version, visit your favourite podcast player and search for Webtrends Optimise or The Big Lift.